What if I told you you're not actually in control of the things you create? Not your work, not your projects, not your relationships, not even your outcomes. And if you've ever planted something, painted something, led a team, raised a child, or even used AI, you already know this because eventually everything starts responding in ways you didn't predict. At some point, things stop doing exactly what you want them to do. This is Cultivating Intelligence, and today we're talking about control, or more specifically, the illusion of it. Humans crave control almost instinctively. We organize, we plan, we forecast. We build calendars and strategies, 5-year plans, because uncertainty makes us uncomfortable. Control gives us something emotionally powerful: predictability. And predictability feels like safety. If I can control the outcome, maybe I can avoid failure. Maybe I can avoid pain. Maybe I can avoid uncertainty. Control also gives us identity. We like believing in our intelligence, our discipline, our preparation, or the belief that effort can fully shape the world around us. Because if we're in control, then chaos feels manageable. But underneath all of that is something deeper. Most humans are not actually trying to control life. They're trying to reduce fear of randomness, fear of loss, fear that things can change despite our best efforts. And honestly, that fear makes sense. Nature is unpredictable. People are unpredictable. Technology is unpredictable. Life itself is unpredictable. So we create systems, schedules, processes, rules, metrics, governance, and algorithms, not because they eliminate uncertainty, but because they help us feel further away from it. But then creation enters the picture, and creation has a way of exposing the limits of control. Let's start with art. There's this idea that artists have complete control. They begin with a blank canvas, and everything that follows is intentional. But real artists know that isn't true. Paint behaves differently depending on humidity. Clay cracks. Ink bleeds. A brush stroke goes somewhere unexpected. An accident becomes the centerpiece. And sometimes the work becomes better because the artist stopped forcing it. The most experienced artists often describe creativity less like domination and more like conversation. They respond, they adjust, they listen. Because the moment you try to over control art, it usually becomes lifeless, too rigid, too perfect, too afraid to evolve. And then there's gardening. Because if you want a fast lesson in humility, try growing something. Gardening destroys the illusion of control almost immediately. You can buy the best seeds, research the perfect conditions, build raised beds, water consistently. And still, too much rain, not enough rain, a late frost, bad soil, insects, disease, heat. You don't command nature, you collaborate with it. And gardeners eventually learn something important. You are never controlling growth, you are participating in it. You create conditions, you influence outcomes, but you do not dictate life. Nature keeps reminding us of this over and over again. Forests adapt without permission. Rivers change course. Weather ignores human schedules. The planet itself is a system of responsive intelligence far larger than any one person's plan. And maybe that's part of why gardening feels grounding. It reconnects us to reality, not the fantasy of total control, but the practice of relationship. And now there's AI, artificial intelligence. This is where things become especially interesting because modern technology often gives the illusion of near total control. Type the prompt, press enter, get the result. Efficient, instant, predictable. Except Not really. Anyone who has worked with AI knows this feeling. You ask for one thing, it gives you another, sometimes unusable, sometimes strange, sometimes unexpectedly brilliant. And the more advanced these systems become, the more obvious it gets. You are not controlling intelligence. You are interacting with it. You influence, you guide, you shape, you refine. But there is still emergence, still unpredictability, still interpretation happening inside the system, which makes AI strangely similar to both art and nature. And maybe that unsettles us, because humans tend to love tools when they feel obedient, but we become uncomfortable when systems begin behaving dynamically. We want intelligence, but we also want mastery over it. And history shows this pattern everywhere. We try to control economies, markets respond unexpectedly. We try to control organizations, culture shifts underneath leadership. We try to control social systems, people adapt around the rules. Even our own minds resist total control. Anyone who has tried meditation knows this, or anyone who's experienced grief, or anxiety, or creativity. Thoughts appear uninvited. Emotions surface unexpectedly. The human experience itself is not fully controllable. And maybe that's the real tension beneath modern life. We've built entire cultures around optimization and control, productivity systems, analytics dashboards, forecast models, automation. And those things absolutely matter. Structure matters, planning matters, discipline matters. But somewhere along the way, many of us started believing control and certainty were the same thing. They aren't. Control is often just a temporary agreement between us and complexity, an agreement that can disappear overnight. A market changes, a storm arrives, a technology shifts, a relationship evolves, a system behaves differently than expected. And suddenly we're reminded we were never fully in control, only participating, only influencing, only adapting in real time. So maybe maturity isn't about gaining absolute control. Maybe maturity is learning how to function without needing it, to stay grounded in uncertainty, to respond instead of panic, to collaborate instead of dominate. Because the best leaders don't control every outcome. The best artists don't force every brushstroke. The best gardeners don't fight nature. And the best AI users don't expect perfection from a probabilistic system. They learn responsiveness, they learn awareness, adaptability, and curiosity. And maybe that's what intelligence actually is, not domination over systems, but relationship with them. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Where in your life are you exhausting yourself trying to force control when what's actually required is responsiveness? And what might change if you stopped trying to dominate uncertainty and started learning how to work with it instead? Next time, we're talking about speed, why AI creates instantly, gardening takes forever, and art lives somewhere in between. And what that says about patience, progress, and the pace humans were actually designed for. This is Cultivating Intelligence, and we're just getting started.
This podcast explores ideas at the intersection of art, nature, and AI. The perspectives shared are intended to inspire curiosity and conversation, not to serve as professional advice. As with any evolving field, listeners are encouraged to think critically and seek additional perspectives.